Have you ever looked at someone in your field who maybe isn't the absolute best, but they're the most visible, the most successful? They're the ones getting all the accolades, the big checks, and you just find yourself wondering, how? How did they do that?
Right, we're always told that mastery is enough, that if you're good, you'll be found.
Exactly. But the research we dug into for this, it points to something a lot harsher and honestly a lot more interesting. It seems that talent is often the least important part of the equation.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it?
Hmm.
And this deep dive isn't really about skill acquisition. It's about the science of perception management
Okay, so the gap between internal expertise, like how good you actually are.
and external perception, the
Yep.
context, the signals you project. The hard lesson here is that authority in the modern world isn't something you just passively earn. It's a construct. It has
Mhm.
to be actively manufactured.
And the research kicks off with this just phenomenal anecdote that proves the point better than anything else. Okay, let's unpack this. So the year is 2007. It's a freezing January morning in Washington, D.C.
In a metro station, of all places.
Right, a busy metro station. A man stands near a trash can. He pulls out a violin. And not just any violin, a genuine Stradivarius.
Worth about $3.5 million.
And he just starts playing 6 really difficult Bach pieces for about 45 minutes straight while thousands of commuters are just rushing past.
And this wasn't just some random guy. This was a planned experiment. It was designed to test the power of context versus, inherent quality.
The question was simple, really. Would pure, transcendent beauty, if you just divorce it from its usual setting, would anyone even notice?
And the answer.
The result was stunningly brutal. In those 45 minutes, only 7 people actually stopped to listen for more than a minute. 7.
And he made, what, about $30?
About $32 in tips, mostly just loose change people threw in. When he finished playing, there was just silence, no applause, no recognition at all.
It sounds like a tragedy for the artist, but it's such a critical lesson for anyone trying to get noticed.
And here's the twist that makes the whole story legendary. The man playing the violin was Joshua Bell.
One of the greatest living classical musicians in the world.
One of the very best. And just 2 days before this, he'd sold out a massive theater in Boston. Tickets were $100 a seat.
And he got a thunderous standing ovation there, I'm guessing.
Of course. I was just shocked when I first read this. It's the same man, the same incredible talent, the same multi-million-dollar instrument.
But one context gets you a fortune and a standing ovation, and the other gets you $32 and complete indifference.
So what's the difference?
It all boils down to one word: context. In that subway, Joshua Bell had no authority triggers. The primitive part of our brain just looks at him, does a quick scan, and categorizes him as street performer, value, 0, and it moves on, saves the energy,
But you put him on a stage.
and everything changes.
The lights, the tuxedo, the expensive ticket, the program notes, the hush of the crowd.
All those signals are screaming, this is excellent, this is valuable, pay attention.
So the core lesson for you to absorb here is that being exceptionally good, that's just the price of entry. It's the material.
But the context where you present your talent matters dramatically more than the talent itself. Talent needs a stage. It needs a uniform to be seen as authority.
Which takes us right to the psychology behind this, the white coat effect. Why are we so reliant on these external signals?
Well, because the brain is fundamentally an energy-saving machine. It's lazy by design.
Right.
We just can't afford the cognitive bandwidth to analyze every single person to see if they're trustworthy. The sources call it expensive. It just burns too many calories.
So if you had to check the credentials of every doctor, every lawyer, you'd never get anything done.
Exactly. So we've evolved this shortcut. We're basically hardwired to look for signs of a leader, signs of an expert, so we don't have to do the hard work of analyzing them from scratch.
We just offload that trust onto a simple visual cue.
And the medical uniform is the perfect example. Someone walks into a room with a crisp lab coat and a stethoscope and tells you to take a pill.
Mm.
You just take it.
You don't ask to see their diploma. You don't call the university.
No, the uniform is the signal. It triggers automatic, almost unquestioning obedience.
It's an incredibly powerful shortcut. But the research also points out how dangerous it can be when it's manipulated.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is how this connects directly to the Milgram experiment, the famous one.
A shock experiment.
Right. It showed that normal, everyday people were willing to administer what they thought were painful, even lethal electric shocks to a stranger.
And not because they were cruel people.
Not at all. Simply because a man in a gray lab coat, the authority figure, told them to. He just instructed them to continue.
And the phrase he used, the one that seemed to just override their own morality, it was terrifyingly simple. It was just, the experiment requires that you continue.
That's it. That sentence from a man in the uniform of scientific authority was enough. It shows the raw, terrifying power of authority when it's properly signaled. The white coat can literally override your conscience.
Okay, so if the lesson is that context and uniform are everything, how do you manufacture that in the modern world? I mean, most of us don't get to wear a lab coat to work.
And that's the key transition. The sources are pretty clear that the old signals, like a framed diploma on the wall, they're failing. They're static. Authority today isn't conferred. It has to be constructed.
And it's constructed through 3 specific modern levers. These are the things you can actually go out and do.
Let's start with lever 1, content as proof. Authority used to come from credentials. Now it comes from publishing.
So writing a book, having a high-quality deep dive like this one, producing video essays.
Exactly. When you publish your knowledge, you are fundamentally changing the dynamic.
How so? What's the psychology there?
Because teaching automatically puts you into the position of authority. The teacher stands at the front of the room, the student sits and listens. By teaching your market, you are metaphorically putting on that white coat.
You become the one who prescribes the solution, not the one competing for the job.
You're not saying, I went to school. You're demonstrating, here is the knowledge you need, and I'm the one who can deliver it. It's an act of leadership.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving on to lever 2, which is association, the halo effect.
This is a really powerful emotional shortcut. We judge people by the company they keep. Status, as the research says, bleeds onto you.
So if you interview the top expert in your industry,
Their status elevates yours. If you work with top-tier clients, you're seen as top-tier yourself. It's an immediate signal of quality by association.
which explains why you see all those media logos on websites, as seen in Forbes or the New York Times.
It's called tribe vetting. That logo signals to the primitive brain that you've been vetted by the tribal elders. It's an instant stamp of approval. It saves the potential client from having to do all the homework on you themselves.
But what if you're just starting out? You can't just call up the CEO of Google for an interview.
You start smaller. You align with high-quality sources in your work. You cite the best research. You become a curator of excellence. You borrow the gravity of others until you have enough of your own. It's a ladder.
That brings us to lever 3, and I think this is where most people get it wrong. The power of specificity.
The sources are so blunt about this. Generalists have zero authority.
Things like life coach or marketing consultant.
They're just too broad. When the problem is serious, when the stakes are high, you don't call a generalist, you call a specialist.
Right. Your family doctor, the general practitioner, refers you to the brain surgeon.
And the brain surgeon makes 10 times more money. Why? Because they do one thing. They solve one singular high-stakes problem, and they charge an incredible premium for it.
So the research says you have to niche down.
Until it hurts.
Yeah.
You have to get hyper-specific.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I know people listening are thinking, if I niche down that much, won't I lose business? Won't I alienate most of the market?
It's the opposite. The opposite happens. Generalists compete with everyone. The specialist attracts the perfect client who is willing to pay a premium.
So instead of being a generic real estate agent,
You become the real estate agent for tech entrepreneurs specializing in relocations to Austin.
and that client immediately thinks, oh, finally, this person gets my stock options, my tax situation, my specific needs.
Exactly. That hyperfocus is the white coat. It communicates competence before you even say a word. You go from being a commodity to being a necessity.
So the challenge here is pretty straightforward. You need to audit your digital presence right now. Do you look like Joshua Bell in the subway or the soloist in the concert hall?
And that uniform isn't just your website or your title. It's how you behave. It's
Yeah.
how you speak. The sources say that once you have this authority, you have to shift your language.
How so?
Experts prescribe. They don't ask for permission. You have to stop using tentative language.
So get rid of things like, well, I think maybe we could try this.
And shift to the tone of a diagnostician. You say, based on my experience with dozens of cases just like yours, this is the diagnosis, and this is the cure we're implementing.
You move from hopeful collaborator to confident prescriber.
And that confidence is what people are craving. They are desperate for leadership, they're lost in a sea of information, and they want someone to just point the way.
So what does this all mean?
It means the person who establishes the clearest signals through content, through association, and through specificity is the one who gets the automatic trust of the white coat effect. Your job is to wear the uniform and lead.
This has all been about authority, cold, hard signals of status and expertise. It's about being respected.
The research leads us to a really fascinating cliffhanger for next time. We've talked all about the white coat, but that's only one side of the influence coin.
So if authority is about the logical shortcut, what about the emotional side?
Exactly. The source material suggests the next step is understanding the power of liking. It even provocatively says that being too professional might be overrated.
Interesting.
So if the white coat works because of distance and status, what are the limits of that authority when people just want to be your friend? Does the need to be a revered expert get in the way of connecting on a human level? And, at the end of the day, which lever holds more influence?
Something for you to think about until we unpack that emotional layer of influence.